Ever feel lost? Like you're wandering through life with no clear direction?
Yeah, I hear ya.
Today's deep dive, we're turning to a text that's offered comfort and guidance for centuries. Psalm 23.
Beautiful psalm.
We're going to unpack its layers of meaning and see how it's surprisingly relevant even today.
It really is.
This psalm is all about the Lord as our shepherd.
Exactly.
6 verses, each one adding another dimension to this beautiful portrait.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't just some flowery poetry, it's attributed to King David.
Oh, absolutely. A warrior poet who knew hardship firsthand.
Yeah, a guy who faced battles, betrayals, loss.
Yeah. He used the shepherd metaphor to drive home a powerful truth.
Okay.
That even when life's throwing its worst at us, we are not alone.
Verse 1, right off the bat, sets the tone. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. Just such a simple statement.
So powerful, right?
What strikes you about that, knowing David's background?
I think it speaks volumes about the depth of his trust in God.
Yep.
You got to think about it. This is David, a man who faced, like we said, battles, betrayals, loss.
Yeah.
And yet he could still say, I lack nothing.
Wow.
This wasn't about material wealth.
Right.
This was about a deep, soul-deep assurance that God's care would meet every one of his needs.
It makes you wonder, what would it take for any of us to say that today? I lack nothing.
That's a bold statement, isn't it, in today's world?
It really is.
But the key is understanding the shepherd's role.
Okay.
Shepherds in David's time weren't just caretakers. They were protectors, guides, providers.
Yeah.
They knew their sheep, they knew them intimately, anticipating their needs, leading them to safety.
So when David says, the Lord is my shepherd, he's expressing this really deep sense of security.
And belonging, yeah.
How does that translate to our everyday lives, though? I mean, verse 2 paints this picture. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. I don't know about you, but my life doesn't always feel like a peaceful meadow.
Well, and that's the beauty of it. This verse isn't about denying challenges or hardships.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that God's provision is there even in the midst of them.
Right.
I mean, think about what green pastures and quiet waters represent, right? Rest, nourishment, peace.
Mm-hmm.
So where are your green pastures?
A good book, a walk in nature, a quiet moment with family, those are my green pastures.
There you go.
But what about when life throws those curveballs?
Yeah.
Those unavoidable valleys that we all face.
Well, that's where verse 3 comes in. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake.
Okay.
You notice how God's care here is both internal and external, refreshing our souls, but also guiding our steps.
But those right paths are not always easy, are they? I mean, sometimes it feels like those paths lead us through some pretty tough terrain.
Exactly. And that's why verse 4 takes on this more somber tone. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So here David's acknowledging the reality of hardship.
Right.
Even fear, right. Yet his confidence doesn't waver.
It's like he's saying, I know things might get rough, but God's my shepherd. I can face anything.
That's it, yeah.
But what about those shepherd's tools, the rod and the staff? What do you make of those?
They're not just symbolic, they were actually crucial for a shepherd's work.
Okay.
The rod was like this sturdy club offering protection from predators.
Mm-hmm.
And the staff, with its hooked end, gently guided sheep that strayed back to the path.
I see.
So even in that darkest valley, David finds comfort knowing God's actively present, defending him, directing his steps.
It's like having this divine bodyguard and GPS all rolled into one.
Right.
But then verse 5 takes us by surprise because we're suddenly at a feast. We're not dwelling in the valley anymore. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Almost defiant, don't you think?
And absolutely, it's this powerful image of God's provision, of God's blessing, even when surrounded by opposition.
It's incredible.
Just imagine it, right? This lavish table is set before you, your head anointed with this fragrant oil.
Wow.
A cup so full it's overflowing with abundance.
This isn't just survival, it's thriving.
It really is.
Talk about turning the tables on your enemies.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder, have you ever experienced that kind of overflowing abundance, even when in the middle of challenges?
Yeah, there have definitely been times when I've been in a tough spot, and yet I've felt this deep sense of peace and gratitude, almost as if God was saying, hey, I'm taking care of you, even in this.
And finally, verse 6 brings us full circle with this incredible promise. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
This one reminds us that God's care isn't fleeting.
Mhm.
It's not based on conditions. It's a lifelong promise extending even beyond this life.
Wow.
That phrase, dwelling in the house of the Lord, speaks to me of an eternal and intimate relationship.
Yeah.
It's like a homecoming of the soul.
So taking a step back and looking at the whole picture, Psalm 23 isn't just a feel-good poem.
It's so much more than that.
It's a declaration of trust in a God who protects us, who guides us,
Mm.
who provides for us just as a shepherd cares for their flock.
That's exactly right. And I think the challenge for all of us is how we apply this ancient wisdom to our modern lives.
Right.
Where do we need to let go of our fears and our anxieties and just surrender them to the Good Shepherd?
Yeah.
How can we see his provision, his guidance, even when we find ourselves in those personal valleys?
That's a good question.
Psalm 23 invites us, all of us, to embrace this truth, that even when life feels completely chaotic, we are deeply loved, securely held, and never truly alone.
Never truly alone.
Nope.
I like that.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
It was a pleasure.
See you next time.